Okay, so I know you're coming to hear me review the new Indian Malayalam movie Bramayugam, but I have to talk about the cinema experience I had going to this movie because it might be the most fun I have ever had going to the movies. So, if you just want the review, I've made chapters below, so just skip forward to there so you can miss this preamble bit. But I just have to talk about this because I've never had this happen before. It was great. A couple of nights ago at like 8:30 at night, once my family had gone to bed, I was laying on the couch and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to the movies. So I googled what horror movies were on near me. The only two that I could find were the new Studio Canal film Baghead and a Hindi language folk horror called Bramayugam Age of Madness. I sort of knew what Baghead was about, so I rolled the dice and bought a ticket to Bramayugam, sight unseen. Expecting to be sitting in an empty theatre, as mostly is the case at 9 p.m. when you go to the movies by yourself. I was pleasantly surprised that there were about 40 people in my cinema, like nervously chattering away. And the movie starts, and just in big letters on the screen, the word Mammootty appeared. And everyone around me started like cheering and like clapping, and I was like, what does that mean? Is that some slang? Is this, that's not the name of the movie? Is that the direct, like, who is this? Who is this person? Like, what is this? And then the movie started, and what kicked off was just a fantastic black and white horror fantasy epic. This movie is 2.5 hours long, so thank the gods that Event Cinemas put an intermission in for us people who like to slam a litre of frozen Coke when they go to the movies. But when the lights rose for the intermission, so about halfway through the film, and like they've got the countdown timer that starts to tell you how long till the movie's back on, I just sat there a bit like twiddling my thumbs because, you know, what the fuck else are you going to do? And I got this feeling that I was being watched, and I looked up, and about half the people in the theatre are just like staring at me. I had no clue what was going on. I thought maybe I'd spilled something, so I was looking around. I thought maybe I'd piss people off by like scraping my straw on the bottom of the cup. And then it hit me. I was the only white dude in the cinema. I was there watching a black and white Hindi language folk horror movie at 9 p.m. at night. Alone white guys in the cinema don't have the best brand. These poor bastards must think I'm like about to do something fucking drastic. So I was like, well, I've got to dispel the incel vibes. So I was like, oh, like I was like, oh, hey, like smiled. As soon as I did that, like 5 people came over to me worried. And I was like, oh, like what's happening? And then this lovely middle-aged man, who I later learned was named Dev, said, are you enjoying the movie? Like, are you liking this movie? And I was, so I was like, fucking absolutely, this is awesome. I can't wait to see where it goes. Then, like a starting gun had been fired, discussions broke out all around me. One person behind me was like, okay, so like Malabar, which is where this was shot, has a lot of mystical history, and there's a lot of temples and folklore, and Yakshis are forest spirits. So, and then we all started talking about what had happened until that point and where we thought the movie was going. And then, you know, the lights dimmed, the countdown timer ran out, and everyone like scuttled back to their seats. Everyone ran back and was trying to get in their seats and comfy before the movie started. Then we watched the last half of the movie, which I loved more than the first half. And as soon as the movie ended, the lights went up again. And I looked around, and someone from the back yelled, "Sir, did you like the movie?" And, you know, I did. So I was like, yeah, I loved it. Fucking cracking ending, you know. And then it was like the floodgates opened. A group of like 10 to 15 people of all different ages, all different groups, like formed a crew around me. And we walked out together, and they started giving me the lowdown on like this movie, like the background of this movie. I was given some folk tales to go home and Google. I was told about the role of sorcerers in Indian religious texts. A lovely woman told me about one of my new favourite actors, Mammootty. The dude's a fucking superstar. Like, I'm talking the most famous actor in India and has been since the 80s. Apparently he's done like 350 films, so no surprise he's phenomenal in this. But one guy was finally like, why did you come to this film? Like, this is a Hindi language film. Why did you come to this? Like, how did you know about this? And I didn't really have a good answer. I was just like, well, I like horror. Googled horror films around me, saw it, bought a ticket. I really like Tumbad, which, as soon as I said Tumbad, like 4 people were like, holy shit, I love Tumbad. And I just took a punt. And it was like, there at 11:30 at night was a mismatched group of people all huddled together in the cinema lobby discussing the collective experience we just had. And it hit me. This is it. This is movies at their best. This is the power of movies. When the intermission hit, I was worried that I had inadvertently or perhaps insensitively pushed my way into another culture's cinematic celebration. And I thought I'd maybe messed up or made it uncomfortable for people going. That's not what the other moviegoers were thinking at all. That was my own shit that I'd brought in. They were fucking stoked that I was there paying money to see artists from their culture doing, top tier work. They were invested in me having a good time. They wanted to give me the backstory. They wanted to add to this cultural crossover event that we'd just all been a part of. There was no weirdness. There was no gatekeeping when I told them I didn't know much about the actors or the backstory. It was just kind people being excited that I was excited to see something from their culture. It was just people from different walks of life vibing out to a cracking horror film. It was so good. It was amazing. Fucking movies are the best. Honestly, how fucking good are movies? And when you show your friend a movie you really love and you sit there watching their reaction to the movie, hoping that they like it. I had unconsciously done that to about 40 people at once, so I do feel a little bad for that. But it was such a good. I've never had an experience like that. It was so good. So this is me just begging you to step outside your comfort zone a little and check out and support some art from a different culture. Do it on a whim. Don't overthink it. I was like, Google, whatever, let's go. This cost me $15 and is now one of my favorite movie memories ever. I have been reading Indian folklore online, and I've been listening to Christo Xavier, who is an amazing Indian techno composer who has a discography of bangers to discover. And he did the sound for this movie, and that's all because I just took a punt and supported this movie. So, if you don't mind horror films, foreign horror films, try to see him at the movies because you might have a similar experience. This was fucking cool. This was cool as shit. Anyway, the review. In case you skipped ahead of my gushing, this movie is amazing. I just loved this movie. It's produced by Night Shift Studios and directed by Rahul Sadasivan. Bramayugam is set in the 17th century Malabar, which is now Madras, I believe, and follows court musician Thavan, who he's fled after being captured as a slave. After a run-in with a beautiful supernatural entity in the forest, he flees and finds himself at the doorstep of a rundown manor. The lord of the manor, Podi, played with flawless malice by acting superstar Mammootty, tells Thavan that he can stay with him as long as he performs for him at his will. Thavan agrees and is fucking stoked. He's like, yes, food, starving, I get to live in this manor, how good. But then we quickly learn that Podi is scary as all hell, and maybe Thavan should have just kept on running. This movie is so sinister. The black and white cinematography is breathtaking, and from the opening shot of Thavan in the rainforest of Malabar, I was hook, line, and sinker. It has that almost dreamlike quality that a lot of really great folk horrors have, and everything's beautiful in like a fairy tale sense. Even like the rundown manner, like there's rushing rivers, there's lots of greenery, there's a big fuck off waterfall. It's fairy tale vibes. That being said, you get the vibe that there is some shit going on in the forest that you want to be nowhere near. And the constant rain of the monsoon just adds to the feeling of being trapped inside the manor. You know how old vampire movies, it's like a dark and stormy castle and there's like lightning and shit going on outside? It's like that, but instead of, dark and gloomy, it's like heavy as hell sun showers over a dense, lush rainforest. And it made me want to just travel there and explore. Like it's beautiful. Honestly, the place is beautiful. Arjun Ashokan, Arjun Ashokan, who played Thevan, does a wonderful job as a freed slave who has just had it absolutely drilled into him that he is worthless. He is so quick to try and placate or grovel before Lord Pody that even though we know absolutely nothing about his backstory and it's not really explored, you can infer everything you need to know. Like, you are aware that it's going to take a lot for him to stand up for himself, and yeah, they did that all basically contextually. Mammootty's Lord Pody it probably goes without saying, steals the show. Like, he plays him like a drunk Henry VIII from the subcontinent, and it's a stroke of acting genius. He's so emotionally manipulative, and he just exudes these awful vibes, like, right from the get-go. Even when he's, like, inviting Thaven in, you're like, hey, man, probably don't go in there. This is a man who thinks he's the king of all he touches, even though his current domain is like a manor that you probably couldn't convince a raccoon to buy. Like, it's fucking disheveled. The creature design in this movie is top tier. There is a dream sequence where a creature is wearing like a headdress and like crawling around creepily. And I'm seriously thinking of getting it added to my horror leg sleeve. Like, it is that top notch. There is also an unexpected like Cronenberg-esque bit of body horror that occurs, and it was so gross that I wanted to cheer. Like, it's wet and there's membranes. It's great. I also like that the creatures in this, we've seen them 100 times. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but we've seen them all. We've seen a lot of them, but I've never seen them done like this. I've never seen them this powerful. I've never seen them this scary. And I just love new takes on common monsters. There are some solid plot maneuvers, including a bit of a rug pull halfway through that got a huge audible gasp from the audience, so that's a big plus. And it is a genuinely creepy and unsettling film. I don't know if it was because I don't know the folklore of some of the subjects in this movie, so I didn't know, the rules. I was like, how the fuck are you going to get out of this? And it kept me on edge the entire time. I've already touched on it briefly, but the sound design and cinematography in this movie, it's high art is what it is. They did this really clever thing where all the score and the speaking, and it's like it added like a sound volume of about 8, and then the effect sounds like the Lord walking around the halls with his cane, or the rolling of wooden dice. It's like ratcheted up to 10, so it's really loud. So you're sort of listening out for sound clues or effects the entire time, like scuttling or chains, and it's really well done. They condition you really well. The music in this movie is it's straight fire. It's so good. My favorite was Age of Madness, which is like this trance piece that played during the end credits, and it's so good. As soon as I got out of cinemas, I Spotified it and added it to my workout playlist. It's that good. The first time you hear Thaven perform too, it was so reminiscent of Pippin in the Halls of Gondor and Lord of the Rings, and I'm a Tolkien fan, so I enjoyed the shit out of that. The only sort of qualm I have with this movie is that some of the action scenes were a little bit janky, right? Like, to be fair, this was made on a budget of 500k AUD. So that is understandable. That's a micro budget, to be honest. And there's only really like a few minutes of combat, so I forgive it. It would have been nice to see someone throw like a decent punch. But it takes nothing from the story. It takes fuck all from the story. It's so good. Overall, if you like folk horror and you don't mind subtitles, get to the movies and throw your money at Bramayugam, because it's so fucking good and the team has made a goddamn horror art masterpiece. I'm now a huge Rahul Sadasivan fan, and I'm gonna have to check out his other horror films because he's made like 2 or 3 more. And if they're anywhere near this, I'm gonna like them. I recommend watching this if you like folk horror, Apostle, The Ritual, The Witch, that sort of thing. If that's your vibe, you'll be right at home here. If you watch horror for the villains, Mammootty's done like 350 films, man. He turns up to 11 in this. This is like if Daniel Day-Lewis or Tom Hanks was like, I'm gonna be a straight up evil horror villain. Who wouldn't want to see that? If you want to get out of your horror movie comfort zone, try this on. Like, this is awesome. This is really good foreign cinema. If you love movies with a banging soundtrack too, check this out. I mean, Indian trance. What more do I have to say to you? It's top tier. I don't recommend watching this if you struggle to read subtitles and you can't stand black and white films. That's really the only reason to not go see this, because it's fucking great. It's really good. Yes, it's a foreign language film. Yes, it's 2.5 hours, and yes, it's in black and white. But I wasn't bored for a second of it, and it's one of the few movies that has come out recently that actually deserves the length it is. Right? Sometimes I go and watch movies and they're 3 hours, and I'm like, for what? Cut half an hour off this, easy. You could have done that easily. You need it in this. If you like this movie, I highly recommend checking out Robert Eggers' The Witch. There's a reason so many people love it. It's creepy, it's unsettling, it's one of the wildest slow burns ever. Or check out Tumbad. It's another folk horror banger about the dangers of greed. Both good. They would go along on a triple bill with this film. It's so good. If you do end up spending your hard-earned cash to go see this, tell me what you think. Like, what was your experience like? Was this your first Indian horror film? If you are already an Indian horror expert, what the fuck should I check out next? Like, what? Tell me. Give me some recommends. Between this and Tumbad, I'm in. I'm team India horror. Let's go. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week for another review. Peace.